Got to be honest, tonight it wouldn't be that exciting of a Monday Night Football game. The Browns eliminated from the postseason. The Steelers, after what we've seen in Week 17, have just a 2% chance of making it. But tonight does carry a lot of meaning, a lot of weight, as it is likely Ben Roethlisberger's last home game of his career, spanning almost 20 years. Big Ben drafted 11th overall by the Steelers back in 2004. His 40th birthday just around the corner. So what can we expect tonight when the Steelers host the Browns? Let's welcome back in Danny Kanell, Brady Quinn here, getting you a betting preview of Monday Night Football. But first, let's talk about Big Ben here. Brady, we'll start with you. Likely his last home game. What can we expect tonight? And just to touch on his career.
Well, I'd first just begin by saying, he's got a Hall of Fame worthy career. He's won a couple Super Bowls. Really, the last one made one of the greatest plays I think we've ever seen in Super Bowl history with his completion in the final moments versus, Arizona to Santonio Holmes. I mean, just one of the greatest plays in general as far as the body control, get his feet in bounds, but just the quick shuffle to make that throw and fit it in. So he's going to be remembered as a Hall of Famer. He'll be wearing a gold jacket and be in Canton at some point. But I think that the tough thing about tonight's game is, from seeing Ben early in his career to what he is now is two totally different things. I mean, Ben was one of the most exciting quarterbacks to watch because of the big playability, his running ability that you see right there, but just his ability to extend plays and make big plays down the field in the passing game, shrug off defensive linemen. I mean, that was one of the biggest staples of this offense for a while, where he kind of brought some of that backyard football to the game. So, even though he's not that now, it's still going to be a send-off in a way. And I'm sure a guy who hails from Findlay, Ohio, a guy who I watched, growing up when we used to scrimmage and play Findlay back during my junior high school days, he would love nothing more than to beat the Cleveland Browns at his home stadium, a team that passed up on having a shot at taking him and being their savior. I think he'd love something like that as a bit of a send-off for him if this is indeed his final game playing in the NFL.
Yeah, it does feel like it. He's kind of alluded to it, talking about it being emotional. I think you'll probably get a good glimpse of those emotions on display tonight. It's funny, we're talking about the San Antonio Holmes play in the back of the end zone. I've been teaching my 9-year-old toe tap catches. It might be one of the best of all time, the catch that was out there. But there's not that many players where you can think of as a lifetime in one uniform. Peyton Manning moved on to Denver. The list of Brett Favre moved on from Green Bay. There are only a handful that have been able to do it in one uniform. And I really think he's a player, and my parents are from Pittsburgh. So this is why I feel this way, because he's a player that kind of embodies the city that he plays in, right? He's not sexy. He doesn't go out there. It's not going to, he's a worker. He's going to go out there. He's going to put his body on the line. He's going to take a lot of shots. But he's not one out there that's looking for a lot of stardom. You don't see him in a ton of commercials. And early in his career, all he did was just win. When he was a game manager, he was handing it off a lot, giving it to the bus. But he just found ways to win. And I think the city of Pittsburgh really appreciated that in him. So a remarkable career, Hall of Fame worthy without question, and somebody who has really just embodied the Steel City that he plays in. So phenomenal career from Ben, and it's sad to see him go. We were talking earlier about Joe Burrow, the amount of players that are, leaving, and kind of we're seeing twilights. We saw Drew Brees out last year. Brady can't go forever. Aaron Rodgers probably getting towards the end. Now Ben, this is a whole entire class of quarterbacks we're seeing right off into the sunset.
18 years in the NFL, though. Like I said, his 40th birthday in March. Can't argue with a career like that. Absolutely incredible. It will be emotional tonight, I am sure. Let's look at a betting preview, though, of tonight. Let's start with first touchdown scorer. Brady, who are you taking?
I'm going to take Nick Chubb. Now, he's the favorite in this case at plus 370, but, I think there's a big-time disconnect with the Pittsburgh Steelers and stopping the run, all right? They're 31st in rush defense this season. They've really struggled. It's a bit surprising considering their front seven, at least on paper, is some of the better in the NFL, but they've struggled to stop it, and that's obviously what Cleveland wants to hang their hat on, coming off a game where they averaged about 9 yards per rush. And look, Nick Chubb's the best player in the Browns offense, so it makes sense that they feed him the football, not putting Baker Mayfield in positions where he might turn the football over 4 times like he did versus Green Bay. So I know it's chalk here, but I think you still get plus money, and it's a safe bet in my opinion if Cleveland gets the football. I think you're going to see a heavy dose of Nick Chubb, and take into account this too. The winds will be somewhere in the mid-teens, gusts up to 25 miles per hour there in Pittsburgh. It is getting that time of year where the running game comes into play because it may be difficult to throw the football at Heinz Field.
Yeah, so you're probably right. Like, I think your bet's probably the smartest one to make, but there's like a sentimental part of me that wants to see a Steeler get it. And, I'm a sucker for taking a long shot. So I went Pat Freiermuth, the tight end for the Steelers. He's got 7 touchdowns on the year, tied for the team lead. You mentioned the win, so that kind of takes some of the bigger plays to a receiver out of it. Then you get down in the red zone. A tight end could come into play, though. So I see his numbers actually down to plus 1,300. But I like that from a red zone target perspective. But yours probably is the one that's going to hit.
You guys mentioned that Big Ben would like nothing more than to beat the Browns in his potentially final home game of his career. So we get Browns at Steelers. The Steelers are favored at home by 2.5. The total here is 43. Danny, we'll start with you. What's your best play in this game?
So my best play in the game is the under. Brady was given some of the conditions. We've seen Cleveland's ability to run the football. Like, it's been a little bit of a mess here for Baker Mayfield. I think they're going to try to at least take some of that pressure off the Christmas Day massacre that we saw with him, tossing up 4 interceptions. So I think they'll get back to what they do best, even though it's, a game that doesn't matter anything to them with their playoff hopes dashed. They're still going to try to run the football. So, and I think Pittsburgh, as much as I would love to see Ben go out there and throw for 400 yards, I don't see that happening. That vertical pass game has really kind of, evaporated. You haven't seen much of that. They don't run the football great, but what they do is that short controlled passing game, which could be impacted too. I just think it's going to be an uglier, cold, defensive game with some run game on display. So I'll take the under as my favorite play.
This week has been a really tough game as far as predicting overs and unders. I mean, you had some games like out in Seattle between Detroit and Seattle. That was about as high scoring as you'll find in the NFL. And you have others that really found teams struggling to score. I wanted to stay away from the over-under. If I was leaning one way, I'm thinking more of the over here, just because I think the second half there's going to be a push probably by Pittsburgh, because I think Cleveland's going to get out to a lead with the way we're going to be able to run the football. I'm going to take the 2.5 points here. I just think this is a bad matchup for Pittsburgh with the way Cleveland can run the football. As long as Baker Mayfield takes care of the football, I think they're going to be okay there. And bottom line is the Cleveland Browns defense is just a much better defense than what we've seen from the Pittsburgh Steelers as a whole. They've got the ability to rush the pass with Myles Garrett. Even though he's a bit banged up, I still think they'll be able to get home. And I think they match up favorably with the wide receivers for the Pittsburgh Steelers on the outside. So I'm going to take the 2.5 points here in Cleveland. I don't think they just cover that. I think they outright win, and I think they try to spoil Ben Roethlisberger's last game playing against them, at least in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform.
Spoil that and the 2% chance the Steelers have of making it to the postseason. Brady Quinn, Danny Kanell, thank you guys so much. I'm going to hand it over to Chris Hassel after this, recapping their picks there. A couple of them we didn't get to, a couple player props if you do want to note of that. Danny likes Baker Mayfield, the under 31.5 passing attempts, and then Brady going with Ben Roethlisberger, the 241 passing yards there. Where is it? Taking